Never take your eyes off the cash flow because it's the lifeblood of business. Richard Branson. On today's episode, we're going to talk about money, but more specifically, we're going to talk about money from the aspect of cash flow in your business. Welcome to the Stitched for Success podcast, where we are teaching business and life lessons that will help you launch, grow, or scale your creative business. I am Monica Allen, and I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, author, friend, lifelong learner, and host of this podcast. For over 8 years, I was stuck in corporate and dreamt of escaping. Creating a side hustle with just $700 and having taken the leap over 15 years ago, we have since grown multiple six-figure and seven-figure brands. Being an entrepreneur for over 18 years has afforded me many successes and a few failures. I want to share those with you so you can grow and be successful in your business. We are kicking off season 3 today, and I'm so thrilled about it. Doing this podcast has really been a blessing for me. It gives me an opportunity to share and give back much of the knowledge that I've gained over the years of being a business owner. It has given me the opportunity to meet and just simply have some wonderful conversations with some fabulous people. And I love meeting new people and giving them an opportunity to share their expertise with you in hopes that the information that they provide will only make your business better and help your business succeed for the long term. Because money is so important for our businesses, basically they would not exist without it, I thought we would kick off this season talking about cash flow. And so I have brought in today an expert. Her name is Tracey Bissett. Tracey is a chief financial fitness trainer. The name of her company is Bissett Financial Fitness. Tracey is focused on educating and empowering individuals, most notably young adults and entrepreneurs, to take control of their financial lives with confidence. And I don't know about you, but I could have definitely used some money direction when I was younger. She is a former executive at TD Bank, one of Canada's big 5 banks. Tracey has worked with and in support of thousands of individuals and entrepreneurs to secure their financing needs. She is uniquely positioned to coach about all things money, given her formal financial education, her Master's of Business Administration, her Chartered Financial Analyst designation, and her continued study of the industry. She is a full-time professor in the financial services faculty within the business school at Centennial College. Also, Tracey is a fellow podcaster and host of the Young Money podcast, which focuses on increasing financial fitness. So let's take a listen to my chat with Tracey. Hi, Tracey. Thanks so much for joining me on the Stitch for Success podcast. I'm so excited to speak with you. I feel like we have so much in common. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Monica. It's my pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited for our conversation.
Me too. I really am. First, let's talk about your business. I know you were in corporate at one point. I was the same way. And then you started your business in 2016. When you started, tell me about the problem you were trying to solve.
The problem I was trying to solve was to create a stream of income for myself that was really matching or bigger than my corporate income. And so I put together all of the things that I love to do. Ever since I was a little kid, I have absolutely loved money. I learned at a very young age how to use it as a tool to either do things or get things that I wanted. And I know that that's not the relationship that most people have with money. So my mission in starting the business and packaging all of the stuff that I like to do was really focused on helping young adults as well as entrepreneurs really take control of their financial lives. And so I'm on a mission to make it easy and simple for people to understand. So then they can really focus on what they want to, but money's not this thing stressing them out or kind of weighing them down in the process.
And I will tell you that is huge. As a business owner, I cannot begin to tell you how much money has been a stressor for me. Did you start as a side hustler or did you just jump right in? Did you just leave your corporate job and start your business? What was your process?
I had worked for TD Bank, one of Canada's big five banks, also on the Eastern Seaboard in the US. And they did a restructuring, as does happen in financial services. So I went from having my executive corporate role to what am I going to do next? And I really took my time and I thought this is a good opportunity to get back into running my own business. When I was a teenager, I used to have a few little side hustles, but my business I have now was born full time out of me leaving corporate.
Nice. Okay. And so many people, go through the restructuring process and then you're left kind of like, okay, what's my next move? Do I go jump into another corporate job or should I bet on myself? And I think betting on yourself is always a good thing. Sometimes it's a little scary, but
absolutely,
I do think it's a good thing. So what would you say, reading through your profile and things, what would you say was the biggest learning curve when it came to starting your business?
Giving up the idea of perfection was one of them, certainly, because especially in the corporate roles that I had, and my very last one, we were doing things for the directors of the bank or the really senior executive management, and everything had to be perfect. When you are running a business, if you wait for everything to be perfect, you're not going to do anything because you're just going to be spinning your wheels. And so I had to give up that idea, and that took me a little while. As well as another thing that I had to do was really build out my network with other business owners. That was really crucial for me because my friends were mostly all in corporate roles and they didn't know how to support me and I couldn't really go to them to ask for help. So building out that network was super important. And then aligning with a business coach. I knew that I could figure everything out, but it was taking a lot of time. And so working with someone who had already been on that journey was a real big key for me to help accelerate the progress. They could tell me how to do it and then I could go ahead and implement. And so that really sped things up once I started working with them.
Oh, that's really good. How soon did you start working with a business coach after starting your business?
I would say probably 9 months, 8 to 9 months after. And so it took me a while to land on what it was that I was going to be doing because I was dabbling in a bunch of things before I really crystallized my audiences and what I was going to offer. So I don't know if it would have been effective to be working with them sooner because I would have been still figuring things out. But certainly if you have the means to get that support, I highly encourage people to do it because it does help you accelerate the results in your business.
Definitely. And how did you go about finding that network that you mentioned?
I started signing up for networking events. I looked for different groups I would attend. Fortunately, there's tons of women's groups out there of business owners, so you can get involved. In my career, I'd worked with women and men, so I sought out mixed groups as well, and really looked for people who I could see were having success, but who were also approachable, so who didn't mind sharing how they achieved their success. And then over time, one of my superpowers is really connecting people. And so being able to make introductions, even then between different entrepreneurs, allowed me to give back to people who were supporting me and helping me as I was getting started. And a day doesn't go by in my business where I don't reach out to somebody to ask for some kind of assistance because everything is changing all of the time. And so being able to tap into the network that I have and get answers and have the support is really key for me.
Yeah. And, that comes down to that word collaboration, which I hear so much these days, but it really is true. If you can find people that you can network with and collaborate with, then you grow together, which Absolutely. Is so important. And that was one of the things when I jumped out of corporate and my husband and I started our first business together, but we were so nose to the paper, just grinding that we didn't really look up and take a breath and really get to know more people. And we had to get out of our four walls. And that's when we really saw business growth happening. So that networking piece, thank you for sharing that because that is so important.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll tell a little story, like really what something my coach pushed me to do that really wasn't on my radar. I mean, you're a podcaster, you've got so many episodes out already, but it was not on my radar to start a podcast. And coming out of a very traditional corporate environment, I was a risk manager. So everything kind of within the box, within certain frameworks. So the thought of speaking on a podcast and having my own show was really just not even in my realm. But I had about probably 20 half-finished blogs that never made it anywhere. So my coach really gave me a big push into podcasting. And I must say it's one of the best things that I've ever done. As you spoke about, Monica, the collaboration that you get to have with all of the guests is fantastic. Really pushes me to continue to stay knowledgeable and well-versed on everything that's going on in the industry. From a financial perspective, my show is for young adults and it's all around money. So it's been one of the best things, but it definitely wasn't even in any thought that I had. So it really pushed me outside my comfort zone. And that's what, when you have a good network and you're working with a coach, they can help you see things that you can't even see or are possible.
Right. That's so good. And now tell me the name of your podcast.
Young Money with Tracey Bissett, the advice show for young millionaires in the making.
Young Money. I like it. I have got to let my daughter listen to that. She's always concerned about making money. She's 11 and that's one of her things. So I'll have to turn her on to your podcast. So thanks for sharing that. Excellent. What would you say in the process of starting your business, growing your business, what would you say has been your biggest win so far?
I would say being able to replace my corporate income was certainly one of the wins. Being in a position where I could start to hire on a part-time basis team members. So started with a VA who was virtual, added a digital marketing assistant, added a part-time EA. And so certainly for me, those are big wins. Starting the podcast and really personal for me. I feel like when you have a good life, it's your duty to give back to others, whether it's with your time, your talent, or your treasures, your financial resources. And so in 2020, we launched a scholarship for post-secondary students. So we're just in the midst of reviewing applications for our second year of scholarship recipients. And those are for students studying in Canada who share our values, who help others accomplish their goals and have a plan for their future. So personally, that's one of the biggest wins for me.
Oh, I love that. That is so good. And it is important to give back. We tend to donate to our local schools. One of my big things is literacy. So I love to support elementary schools and of course, entrepreneurship too. So I like to go in and volunteer time with Junior Achievement.
That's a great program.
I know it is so wonderful. The content is fabulous and kids can learn so much. And COVID kind of messed that up last year. We didn't get a chance to do it, but hopefully it'll be back on this year. So I'll get a chance to do that again. So now that it's 2021, how's it going? You've been in business or you're about to celebrate 5 years.
Absolutely. Oh, it's going well. Always new challenges definitely present themselves. So as you continue to grow and you're expanding your offerings, figuring out how to do things at the next level. This year was a big year for me. I did a website revamp, brand new CRM, linking everything together with the shopping cart. Certainly not my expertise, any of it. So finding the right providers, having glitches, as you know, which always happen with tech. So kind of leveling up so that I can continue to grow things in the future and continuing to have team members work a little bit more hours a week. And so everything's moving ahead and really excited about where we can take things. When you look back, you get to see how far you've come and it always feels like there's so much to do as there is, but it's important to take a look back and see where did you start? What have you accomplished so far? And where are you going to continue to go?
Definitely. You want to take that time and give gratitude for what you've already done because you've already done so much. You're doing wonderful. And one of the questions I always like to ask people is about what they would say was one of the biggest mistakes they've made in business, because we make them, of course. And one of the goals of this podcast is to help people not make the mistakes that we've made. So what would you say is one of the biggest mistakes you've made in your business?
Hiring too slow. So trying to do everything by myself and really not focusing on what was the value of my time, being focused on could I go out and make sales or even do more client delivery if someone else was freeing up my time. And so I would encourage people to hire faster than you think. And if you are hiring someone who works on a contract basis, you can be flexible with hours. Usually it's very manageable. And if you're really focused on here's what the return is going to be if I free up this amount of my time and then I can go and either do client delivery or generate new sales, really getting in that mindset. And it took me a little bit longer than I would have liked to get there. And just staying focused on that is always very important because with the numbers, you're always focused on what is going to be my overhead and what do I have to carry in terms of expenses every month, but making sure you're thinking about that return and that trade-off. So what is my time worth? What could I earn with it if somebody else is doing some of the more admin type things or the things I'm just really not good at. So that's probably the biggest one.
So why do you think you were hesitant to hire? Was it more about the money or cash flow or being overwhelmed with that additional expense? What were your thoughts around that?
Probably a few things. So one being I wanted to learn everything that I was going to do in my business myself. And I don't need to know exactly everything. I need to have a firm grasp and I like to understand the details, but I didn't need to do everything. Certainly cash flow was another one of them, but then really not taking the time to train someone. So when you're starting out, everything's kind of on the fly. You've got it in your head. So it takes more time to create processes. But the earlier you do that, the easier it is to hand off. And I would say in the last probably 16, 17 months, we've done a great job of documenting a lot of the things that are going on in the business so that someone else, people change over, can easily step in and actually follow process. And it's going to bring down permanently the amount of training required because it's not going to be taking everything that's in my head and kind of dumping it out to the person. We've got things written down. And so making the time to set up systems and process so that I could actually onboard somebody. And that's discipline and just getting down to business and getting it done. So,
yes, that is so difficult though, because I can say for sure our business took a major pivot when we actually took the time to do that, but it's front loading that time, right?
mm-hmm.
Finding that time, making that time to create those processes and then putting them in place and also reviewing them. That's what I have found to be a little difficult right now because we have all of this stuff, all of this information, but honestly, it needs to be revisited from time to time. So currently what I attempt to do is have the person currently in that position, make sure they're updating, but that can be tough too, because they're trying to get their work done. So
yeah. It's about making the time and it's painful when you're doing it, but it's so key. And that's what kind of drives things to the next level. So it's an investment of time that's necessary, or you're never going to be able to grow further as long as you've got everything in your head.
Yeah, for sure. So Tracey, let's switch gears a bit. You mentioned the word cash flow. I often say that cash is king. And this is one of the things that I have learned the hard way in my business. What would you say are the biggest mistakes business owners make when it comes to cash flow management?
So first, just to level set for everybody listening or who may be watching, cash flow, very simply, it's money that comes into your business, money that goes out, and the timing that it happens. So that's the really straightforward way to explain that. The biggest mistakes I see when it comes to the financial management and the cash flow management, one, either completely delegating it to someone else, like an accountant or a bookkeeper, or two, just putting your head in the sand and thinking, if I work hard, if I make sales, things are going to work out. So that's the first one, not taking accountability, which is really key. So the second thing that I typically see is entrepreneurs and business owners not understanding the difference between their cash flow and how their sales and expenses really line up. And so the financial statement that most business owners look at is their income statement, their profit and loss, P&L, all names for the same statement that show all your sales and expenses for a certain period. But just because we record the sale and we have the sale with the customer doesn't mean we actually have the cash. So taking the time to understand how cash flows in and out of your business is really important. If you happen to have an event planning business, you're not going to take on a job unless you get a deposit up front, and then you're not doing the event until you get the money on the day of or the day before. You're not going ahead with it. If you do a lot of work with corporations, you probably are going to do your work and then you're going to invoice them later, and they might pay you 30, 60, 90 days later. So now all of a sudden you've done the work, you need to pay your bills, but they haven't paid you yet. And so that's the second one. And the third one I typically see is commingling everything together. You're commingling your personal expenses, you're commingling your business, and all of a sudden you've got a big mess. Things are tight and you don't know what the problem is. Is the problem in your business? Is it in your lifestyle? And so trying to figure out what's going on. Those are three of the big ones I see.
I appreciate you going over those points though. And I will say that for me, the first couple of years in business, I did not get cash flow. I can't say that I actually get it 100% now, but it's much better. Because I just remember talking to my accountant and I'm looking at the P&L, as you mentioned, I look at that quite a bit, but not understanding why, this net income is not shown in my bank account. And so
Yeah.
He's explaining this to me. And I'm like, I just don't get it. And I'm in my, kind of late 20s at the time. So I just did not understand it coming from corporate where I just did my work, I did my job and I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to deal with bookkeeping or accounting or any of that. So those things are very important. And I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
So what do you think business owners do well? You mentioned we do some things wrong, but you also mentioned there's some things that we do well when it comes to cash flow management. What do you think about those?
Absolutely. Pretty much anybody I ever talk to says they're terrible with money. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know what they're doing. And I'll ask them how long they've been in business. So if it's any length of time, kind of beyond 3-4 months, I'll tell them that they do know how to manage cash flow. And they'll kind of look at me with a puzzled look, or they might actually say that if we're on the phone. But because cash is so critical to your business, it's really the lifeblood of your business. If you've been around for any length of time, you may not talk about it the way that I do. You may not manage it very well, or may not do it efficiently. But the fact that you're still in business and you're able to pay your bills, keep things moving, you do know how to manage cash flow. And so I always like to start there with people that I'm working with. And I work with entrepreneurs across all different industries. Sales are usually up to kind of a maximum of 2 million. And we start there, we build on that positive foundation, and then we just enhance the knowledge, the financial acumen, and the capability around managing cash flow. But starting from that place of positivity with the strength that they've already got is really key. And people are usually floored when I tell them that, but it's a great thing for people to realize you're actually doing better than you think you are.
That is good to know. I've been in business for almost 18 years, so I guess I'm not too bad off. But yeah, that's good to accentuate the positive.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're doing it perfectly or that there's no times of stress, but the mere fact that you can juggle things and get funds in when you need it to be able to pay your bills, you're resilient, you have the problem solving ability, and you're conscious of what's happening. So you can always do it better, but you are doing it kind of at a minimal level if your business has been around. And certainly for 18 years, that really kind of blows away all the statistics because there's so many stats around business failures. So that's a tremendous accomplishment, Monica.
And do you find that most business failures have to do with cash flow or lack thereof?
Generally, yes. And can come down to a few things. So I've seen businesses go under in as quick as 90 days. So certainly I was working at TD and in risk management at the time of the 2008 financial crisis when we saw everything go haywire. Certainly COVID's impacted everything. But if you don't have sufficient cash coming in to be able to cover your bills and being able to manage that, your business is going to dry up. And so if you have access to credit, so a line of credit or overdraft, or you've got access to personal funds, that can help you bridge those gaps. But one of the biggest culprits that it comes down to and not having the right amount of cash flow is not pricing your products and your services correctly. And I would say with the entrepreneurs and business owners that I work with, 85% of the time, the prices are not set appropriately to actually cover all of the costs. And so if you're losing money on everything that you're selling, it's pretty hard to have enough cash flow to cover everything at the end of the day.
Definitely hard to cover. Definitely hard to stay in business like that. So do you help your clients determine their pricing?
I do. And so I like to start from the bottom up, think about all of the costs that go into delivering this product or service, then do a scan of what's going on in the market. What are competitors offering? What is the value we're bringing? What are people willing to pay? And then kind of marry up what will we need to charge to make a profit here? Who's the right target client to gear this towards? And so sometimes it's an increase in prices, and sometimes it's also a switch in target client, because maybe you've been going after the people who can't see the value and don't want to pay the amount that you need to charge, but you do have something very much of value. The other part that comes into it, money's very emotional. We all have money stories. We have the way that we were raised, and usually that sticks with us. And it happens to all business owners, but women more so, these feelings of insecurities about our worth and our value as we go out and we try to tell people our prices. So it brings up a lot of emotional things at that time where you're presenting your product or your service and you're articulating that price point. So we talk a little bit about that too, and how can we get more comfortable with that. And sometimes it's about excluding some people from talking about our business with us. Because I'm not sure if you've experienced this, Monica, but oftentimes friends and family members are very well intentioned, but they may make some comments and ask some questions that are not helpful to you as you're trying to grow your business, and maybe even challenge you based on their own experience. Like, who do you think you are charging that much money for whatever it is that you do? So the pricing, it's about the numbers, but it's also about the emotions that go with it. And I usually tackle both of those with my clients.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a lot. Definitely the way you were raised and those comments can hit hard, and you definitely have to charge your worth. And I know it's hard for people, especially when you're in a service-based business where it's not as clear cut as a product-based business. Wow. Those are very good points, Tracey. And one of the things that I found with our business when it came to cash flow that I did not anticipate initially going into business is when you have debt, because it reduces, that number goes to your liabilities, and the debt portion is not subtracting from your expenses at that point. The expense was already taken. Yes, you're subtracting the interest, but you're reducing that cash flow each month when you're paying off these debts.
Absolutely.
And it just left me struggling for a number of years, because we've paid down a ton of debt at this point, but that was the hard part for me. So I do caution people, definitely you need to establish business credit. You will have some debt, but just watch that number is definitely a caution from my perspective. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't feel like debt is good or bad, but it's all in how you manage it. So just like you said, you absolutely need to factor it into your cash flow, because you've got to be making enough profit, not only to make sure you get paid, reinvest in the business, but pay down that debt. And if you're losing money or you're marginally profitable, you're not going to have any surplus funds to be able to pay down debt. So really look into it. I would encourage people to do a cash flow forecast as well as a projected P&L, so they can see, what do I have planned for my business, and does this make sense? Or am I going to put myself in a position where I'm going to be super stressed and this is going to be really hard to manage? As well, the other thing to keep in mind is you don't ever need to do any of these things alone. If you don't know how to figure those things out, certainly working with a financial coach, someone like me, would be able to help you frame that so that you can make those kinds of decisions. And important to get advice from someone who knows versus maybe a friend who doesn't really understand very much more than you do, so that you can make informed decisions, because it can be very stressful, can cause a lot of anxiety, and certainly financial concerns can permeate through every area of your life. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of your business, yourself, your family, every aspect of your life. And getting into too much debt can cause challenges for all of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of our debt was due to the fact that we were trying to grow. We wanted to grow fast. But yes, so thank you for sharing that. And a couple more questions. If you could, and you may have kind of covered this already, but if you could recommend one thing that we could implement today to improve our cash flow management, what would it be?
Having a dedicated time every month to look at your financial information, look at your results, look at your cash flow, plan for the coming months. And so once a month minimum, but having a weekly meeting is really the best approach. And so whether that's with yourself, one week might be with your bookkeeper, another might be with your accountant. If you've got a business partner, certainly meeting with them as well. But having it carved into your calendar, it's just as important as like your sales, your marketing, your operations, all of those other things. And I don't find most business owners commit the time to the financial side of the business. And it's pretty impossible to hit your goals in your business if you're not using the numbers to guide you and to factor into the strategy.
Very good. That's a very good point. And I've got to get back on that. I used to be really good every Wednesday. Wednesday was my day that I did finances. And once COVID hit, things just went crazy. I don't have enough people. I need more people. So, you're trying to juggle multiple things, but that is so important to watch those numbers. Thank you for sharing that as well. Now, you have a free gift that you would like to share with the audience. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. And it's really on the same theme that I just talked about. And it's a money meeting agenda so that you can actually download it right now and get started and have a place to start if you haven't been in the practice of looking at your finances. And so you can head over to cashcoach.biz and download that money meeting agenda. And your first meeting might be just reading through the agenda and starting to get comfortable. Maybe it's looking in your bank accounts. Maybe it's starting to look at your financial results. But get that weekly cadence in your calendar so you can really make the most of your business. And by having an eye on the numbers, you can use it to drive strategy. Some people try to make it fun. So they might have Money Mondays. They might have Financial Fridays. I don't know if you had a fun name for your Wednesdays, but anything you can do to do it in short bursts, but having that regular attention to the financial side will definitely advance your business. So go to cashcoach.biz and you can download that money meeting agenda.
That's perfect. I am going to go download that today. Thank you so much for sharing that and sharing that with the Stitch for Success audience. So definitely go download that, and it will help all of us do a better job of managing our money, which is key, 100% key to having a successful business. So Tracey, if someone wants to get in touch with you to inquire about your services or just to find out more information about your company, what's the best way for them to do that?
So love to hear comments, questions, any feedback. Best place is on LinkedIn. So Tracey has an E and Bissett has 2 S's, 2 T's. And if you download that money meeting agenda, you'll be popped over to my website. So you'll be able to find all kinds of information there as well. And all the social media handles and contact forms, everything's there.
That is perfect. Tracey, thank you so much for your time. I can't even begin to tell you how you know how important this topic is, but I am so grateful for you taking the time to share it with the Stitch for Success audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Monica. It's really been my pleasure, and it's been a really fun conversation.
Thank you. I want to thank Tracey again for sharing her insight with the Stitch for Success audience. I also want to take a moment to share a couple of things that I have going on right now, and they're both pretty big to me, so hopefully you'll check it out. One is I am part of a book that is launching on Monday, August the 16th. The book is called The Fearless Entrepreneurs. It's a book featuring 27 entrepreneurs and their stories, and I'm one of them. So I'm very excited about it, and you can actually pre-order the book now at thefearlessentrepreneurs.com. And I will put a link in the show notes if you want to click through and purchase or pre-order that. I would appreciate it. And I hope you really enjoy all of the stories in the book. The next thing I have going on does need a little bit of a backstory. Last year in early 2020, I was headed to the office with Ethan. We were actually riding together, and we don't actually do that very often, but for some reason we were, and I suddenly got really hot. My chest started hurting, and I just felt like I might vomit, to be honest with you. And so he pulled over. I got out of the car and kind of cooled off and walked around a little bit, hopped back in the car. But as soon as I got to the office, I called my doctor's office and spoke with a nurse. And I was thinking to myself, surely I'm too young to be having a heart attack. But she assured me I wasn't having a heart attack, but she did want me to come into the office the next day. I did that. I went to go see my doctor, and she basically said, you had a mild anxiety attack, and I'm going to prescribe you some anxiety meds. Here you go. Told me how to take them. I started taking them. And I don't like taking medicine. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel right to me. So after about a week of taking these, I stopped. I felt that I could find some natural path to reducing my anxiety. Just so happened in March, I remember the date very well, March 16th was the last day my kids went to school, and we experienced the pandemic lockdown, and life stopped. The hustle stopped. And I could breathe. My anxiousness, my anxiety went away. And what I determined at that point is that I had to change how I was living my life, how I was running my business. And that was an eye-opener for me, because I also realized that I could change these things, that I didn't have to live this pressurized lifestyle of run, run, run all the time. So now, as we get back into normalcy a little bit, I'm no longer doing the run, run, run. I have determined that my business has to work for me, not against me, not against my health. And in the process, I have run into some fabulous women that we've come together, 12 of us actually, to host an event that we're calling the Anti-Hustle Business Expander. It's a 12-day summit where you have an opportunity to get into flow in your business, to have your business work for you and not against you. Our business has grown over the past year. I think being in flow with your business helps you to attract more business. We have all heard, hustle harder. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Well, if you're not careful, you will be dead, and you can't grow anything in the ground. Well, you can grow plants, but you know what I mean. And I'm not meaning to get really somber here, but as one of my fellow participants in this expander stated, the hustle will grind you if you're not careful. And for me, the hustle is over. We have got to take back our health, and I know I am truly a believer that we can still grow our businesses successfully and be successful without the hustle. If you want to know more about how to expand your business but reducing the hustle, then join us for this business expander. It is only $147. You get access to 12 business experts who have actually, all of us have grown our businesses tremendously over this past year. We will touch on many different topics all across the board, from scaling your business, mindset, meditation, 12 experts covering different things. But ultimately, at the end, you will be in flow with your business while still growing your business. And the reason why is because you will be in alignment with your business. So you can check out the link in the show notes, or you can check out my bio on Instagram to get access to joining the Business Expander. Thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of season 3. I'm so excited to be back. I'm so excited that you're listening. I feel truly blessed that you're a listener of the Stitch for Success podcast, and I feel truly blessed to be here with you. Please feel free to share, subscribe, and rate the podcast. I am truly grateful for you. I hope you have a wonderful one. Take care.